Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're this Yevamot daf Nun Dalid. We are going to begin on the top of Nun Dalid, Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the top. So we started a new parak, which told us when it comes to the dinim of Yevama and Yibum, a person is able to have a kinyan of Yibum, even if it was Ba'ones, it could be Bratzon, B'shogeg, Shneim anusin. If let's say both of them are an onos, so we said, what is the case of? So actually, the Gemara asked this question on the previous daf. What is an onos? So Maskana, we said, for example, the Yevama grabbed him, even though he was having kavana to have tashmish with his wife. So Shneim anusim debei Rab Chia hechidami kigon shenischaven leishtoi. He had kavana to have tashmish with his wife. V'taf v'kat. V'tekafuhu Ovdi Kachavim, and Ovdi Kachavim grabbed him. V'dibkum zebzeh uvaleha, and they basically forced both the man and woman to have tashmish. So that's an onus. Onus is being forced. So minahani. So how do we know that it's chal? It works. It's kainin. Did not the tanobanon. The pasuk says Yavama yabo aleha. So we say mitzvah. So it tells us there's a mitzvah in order to do yibum with bia. Davar acher yavama yabo leha ben b'sheg ben mezim ben b'onis ben ratzai. In any way it's done, it works. I will have fikti la mitzvah. We just established that it's supposed to be done. It's a mitzvah to do this. La mitzvah meve'im lo yachpoitz ish nafka. We learned that out from the pasuk says if you do not, the man does not want. The man and woman decide against the relationship, they do chalitza. Hachafetz yabim. So we can make a deduction that if taka they wanted to do this, then they should do yibum. So that's a mitzvah. Chiyasakra ben b'shem ben mezid ben b'onis ben b'ratza. So the pasuk is really come to tell you that any intention, it still works. Okay. So against when it says mitzvah, Rashi says better to do yibum than to do chalitza. Tan idach yavama yavoleha kedarka. It means a person who has bia in the normal way, l'kacha shlo kedarka. Even in the not normal way, that also will be a kinyan. Vayibim bia gomeras ba v'in kesv shtar ushtar garmin ba. That the completion is dafka with bia and not with kesv and shtar, which says like mimer. Vayimam. The extra hay is bal karcha, that even against her will. Davar acher yavama yavoleha ben b'shagig v'chu. Ivaha fikti l'kedarka. We use that pasuk to tell you that's tashmish kedarka. Now hahu that we went out mil hakim l'achiv shem nafka, but makom shemakim shem. It's dafka if it's kedarka, a way that you're able to eventually produce offspring. B'chiyasakra ben b'shem ben mezid ben b'onis ben ratzai. Goof. So going back to what we said before, Rabbi Yehuda, Yashain, if the man is sleeping and somehow during that time his aver was kosher, and therefore because of that he was able to have tashmish, but he had no kavana doing this, he was not a bardas, therefore lo kana be a vimtai. Diamar kra yavama yavo aleha ad shemischa u'demachavein lo l'shem bia. He at least has to have a kavana. He's having bia. V'sanya ben er ben Yashain. Didn't we learn that even sleeping, Ema ben Eirah ben Yeshena, when it comes to her, even if she's sleeping. However, when it comes to him, he has to be awake. Vasanya ben Er who ben Er ben Yashin who ben Eirah he ben Yeshena he. L'chayr it says that even if he's sleeping, so Hachmai Skinan ben Misnam name. This doesn't mean he's takas mamish sleeping. If he's sleeping, no. But if he's misnam name, at least he's kind of like dozing. That doesn't count as sleeping, and therefore it would be a kinyan. So echidam misnam name. So Rav Ashi in Gemara in so many other places. Nim v'lo nim, tir v'lo tir. So he's awake, he's not awake, sleeping, not asleep. It's like in between. Going the karu leva on. You called him, the answers v'lo yadal haduri svara. But he's not able to really give any like in-depth answer. The madkru le midkur. However, he does have some recollection, like he can answer yes or no, basic answers. Gufa. Omer Rabba nafal min hagag v'niska chayiv arba devarim. So it tells us that if the man has a his aver is kasha, and at that time he has a kishui aver, and he falls off the roof, and he somehow has tashmish with a woman and violates her, so he's chayiv arba dvarim, nezek tsaripoi and sheves, he's part from boishas. However, v'yimto loy he's not kind of the avimtai. The nezek v'tzar b'sheves b'ripoi, but boishas lo, not for embarrassment, lo mechayiv, because we know the Yemamar in chayiv al boishas actually is chavin. You actually have to have kavana, and this was unintentional. Rabbi is chavin lo hatiach b'koisel. Let's say he had kavana to rub against the wall, says Rashi, lav l'shum biyam eschavin, he was just like scratching his member on a wall, vehe tiach biyavimtoi, and instead he ended up having tashmish with the Yevama, lo kana, because he wasn't having kavana to do this, l'shem biyah. V'hatiach b'behema, let's say he was scratching against an animal, v'hatiach b'Yevama, and he had tashmish, he ended up rubbing onto a woman, the Yevama, kana, deha k'mechavin l'shem biyah b'oilam. So in this situation, he's latiach b'behema. So in that situation, because it's a living creature, so therefore there's the potential of biyah, and therefore for that reason he is going to be chayiv. Now this is, I think, a very unbelievable Gemara. All of this is showing the tremendous kedusha of what Gemara is and how the Chachamim will do at any cost to find the emes, because most people are embarrassed to talk about such topics, to talk about having marital relations. That's something which is taboo, and this is not only talking about scenarios of having relations with a woman, but very controversial discussions. It's because the Chachamim want to know the absolute truth. If you're coming with a healthy Torah mindset, a spiritual mindset, so you read these Gemaras, you understand the mindset of the Gemara and the Chachamim is to get to the emes, to understand the truth. And even if these situations of falling off a roof is something which will never happen, but just like American law, what we try to do is we create scenarios, we understand different situations. Does it work here? Does it not work here? Does it not work here? So that when we're actually dealing with real life situations, we're able to maybe make comparisons and to say, okay, this situation is more comparable to this, it's more comparable to that. Doesn't mean that these things typically happen, but we're able to draw other conclusions based on these results. Okay. Echad Hamare. So he said that even if it wasn't a Gemar Bia, it's still a Kinyan. So Omer, so before we go vital, let's see question 8. Question 8. Yashan hu or yashnahi ha'im kana bi'avimtai. So the din is, if he's sleeping, it's not kana. If she's sleeping, it is kana. Echad Hamara. So Amr Ula, Menayin l'hara min ha'Torah. How do we know that there's an element of even hara, of even like tchilas bia, that has some substance? Shnemer b'isha sheyishkav es isha dava. So it's referring to a man who is with his wife, but while she's dava, while she's in nida, begilas ervasa, es mikaira era. So he revealed her erva, the source of nidos. So mekan l'hara min Torah. The fact that it says this language, it shows that even during b'shas hara, even through tchilas bia, that also is has halachic status. So ashcha nida. I understand that a person is boiled nida, that you're chayiv even b'hara, so shar rayis minayin. How do I know this applies to other rayis? V'chitim alev nida. You can't. We know that if the husband has tashmish with his wife while she's in nida, well, not only is she tameh, but she also makes him tameh. So therefore, because of that, this is a tremendous chomer that we don't find by other forms of arayis. So maybe you cannot learn out from nida. Ela asya me'eshes ach. Let's learn out from your brother's wife, which is the case of Yibum. D'chsev isha sheyikach as eshes achiv nidahi. V'chi eshes achiv l'olam nidahi. What does that mean, nida? She's not a nida. She's not always a nida. Ela kin nida. The pasuk is saying that she has the same status just like a nida. The fact that it says nida he, it's going to tell you that just like a nida, there's a chiv bahara, even at tchilas bias, so too when it comes to eishes ach and all other rayas, which is question 9, at least the Havamina. Question 9. Madu iksib be'isr eishes ach nida hi lahavamina lamaskana. So lahavamina lamelov bahara benida. We're going to see that that's not going to be maskana. Says the word continues. Says mal eishes ach shachin biyadol rabbis. When it comes to eishes ach, it's in your hand to include it. The boy mikadosh ozol ki alpha. What does that mean? So Rashi says, "Shachin biyado shel adam l'rabos nashim harbe." It's in your hands to increase many women. Al achiv beiser eishes ach, that you're able to include your other brothers in the isser of eishes ach. So so you can't learn out from that either. Ela asim achos av, yachos aim. Learn out from your father's sister and your mother's sister. Dechsiv ervas achos imcha v'achos avicha lo segale. So kia share era. So equal mifrach. Mal achos av v'achos aim shechen iser haba me'elav. These are isurim that come automatically. It's not through marriage. So how could you learn out from other cases where the erva is through marriage? So mechadol asya, you can't learn out from one. So teisi chad matarti. So hey teisi, which one can you learn? So teisi me'eshes ach v'achos aim, me'achos ach, eshes ach v'achos av, v'achos aim. So I want to learn out from the two things, from your brother's wife, which is like yibum, and your father and mother's sisters. So malhanach, you can't, because by them shachin asurim mishum share. Both of these are connected to relatives. They're isser of relatives. But how would you know that there's a din hara when it's someone who's not your relative? Elatesim and nida v'achos av. So learn out maybe from nida and achos av achosem. Now malhanach shachin isser haba me'elav. In both these cases, the isser comes automatically, as opposed to the case of eshes ach, it only comes through marriage. Rather, you should learn out from nida and from eshes ach. To my parchas, what else you can't ask anything. So therefore, from eshes ach and from nida together, you can learn two to others, and therefore that's the din. So mask Rav Acha bered Rav Yika malanida eshes ach. Those also have a pircha on it. Shechin ein lehem heter b'chaye oisron. That when it comes to both of them, there is no heter, in lehem heter b'chay oisron, that we answer them while they're alive. Timer be'eshes ish, when it comes to marriage, they themselves don't have the ability to change it. But a married woman, shekain yesh la heter b'chay oisra, the one who answers, which is the husband, even while the husband's alive, she can go free, which is by giving a get. Mash'in kain, as long as your brother's wife, your wife's brother, your brother's wife, because your brother is still alive, so you can't marry her, right? And therefore you can't learn out from that. So Amrule Ravacha Medif the Ravina ought to what? Need of Eshes Ach Bechai Oisran? Who? Dein lehem heter, avol achar mikan yesh lehem heter. So you're telling me that when it comes to need, that Eshes Ach, so while the person's alive, it's aser, there's no heter, but afterwards there is a heter. So because that's true. If the brother dies, then you can marry the sister. You can marry his wife. So need, as we continue to nun daladam and beis, need the biyomi tali milsa. It's all totally by the day, says Rashi. Afil imes oisra. Even if the man who asered her dies, shepaska dam b'riya rishayna asur kol shiva. She is still aser for those 7 days when she sees dam. So it's all totally be on days. Eshes ach bebanim talim rachmana. It's totally on having kids. In other words, if your brother has children, even if he dies, you still can't marry his wife. It's only in a situation where they have no children. El parchachi. Malani the Eishes Ach shechein ein oisrin matirin. Term of Eishes Ish she'oisra matira. Now, as we said before, the same person can make her mutter. Again, by giving a get. Mashen came by here, the same person cannot make her mutter. El Omer Rav Yomi Tema Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua. Therefore, Omer Kra Ki Kol Asher Yasmi Kol HaToevos Ha'ele. We went out from this pasuk. Menichosu hanafashos hasuis. So hukshu kol arayos kulin lenida. So we make a hekesh to nida. Man nida bahara avkol bahara. So we're not learning it from Mamatzino, we're learning from a hekesh, and that you could learn without a pircha. They'll nida d'chsiva be eishes ach lamli. So why taka does it say the word nidahi when it comes to eishes ach? Why does it say that? It's not by hara, because we're not learning that out from that. We're going out from this pasuk. So go to Rav Huna, Diyam Rav Huna, remez levam minatar minayin. How do we know a hint to that there's a concept anywhere in the Torah of a Yevamot? So this doesn't make any sense, because what do you mean? In fact, the Gemara, minayin, what do you mean? Minayin haksiv Yevama yavo aleha. We've been learning up until this time, page and page, about the dinim of Yevama from the Torah. Ella, this is the point. Remez liyavama shasura b'chayi bala minayin. How do we know that when it comes to Yevama, she is usher as long as the husband is alive? So hay svarhi. So it's logical. Midiyam rachman alachar misas bala sharia, that once the brother dies, then she's potentially mutter if she has no children. Mechalad chayi bala surah. So that comes to teach you, obviously, that while he's alive, she's usher to you. Now, b'dimla achar misas bala mitzvah. Maybe it's a mitzvah to do yibum after your brother dies. However, b'chai bala rishus, while your brother's still alive, it's rishus. In other words, let's say, for example, doesn't mean that he's married to her. Obviously, that's not what it's talking about. But for example, as Rashi says, im girsha. Let's say, if your brother divorced her, so they're not married anymore. So maybe even though your brother is no longer in the picture, he's still alive, maybe you actually would be able to marry her. So that's what it's coming to tell you. But Dilma, again, liachar misas bala mitzvah, b'chai bala rishus. Inam liachar misas bala in, however, b'chai bala lo. V'lav haba m'chlal say. So Rakrav isha sheyikach haseshes achiv nidahi. That's why the pasuk says nidahi. V'chi eshes achiv nidahi. What do you mean? Is she always a nida? El kanida. Ma nida afal pi sheish ba heter lachar mikan b'shasi surah b'kares. Even though when it comes to nida, obviously she's not usher to you forever. She's your wife. But if you do have tashmish her right now, it's an isser kares. So af eshes ach nami afal pi sheish. If your brother dies, nonetheless, there's going to be Isser Kares. This is actually question 9. As we said, the Havamina was that we went out from Nidahi to tell you there's a din hara, even the Tchilas Bia. Laskana is no, that she's usher to you as long as your brother's still alive. So why does it mention it by the your father's sister, your mother's sister? Why does it mention hara? Look at the bamine ravina marava hamara bezachar mahu. It's coming to explain the following din. When it comes to someone who does hara with a zachar, what is the din with a man? So bezachar mishkavi ishaksiv. So of course that uchor has the same din. Ella hamara bebehema mahu. A person who has relations with a behema, how do we know he's going to be chayiv even b'hara? So Amar Lei im enu inu lahara dechsiva gabi achos ava achos aim ti'asiyah behekesha. We're learning that from a hekesh from Rabbi Yonah, as we saw above. So tinu inu lahara de behema. So therefore we will use it to tell that the din of hara is even if a person has be with a behema. So mechti behema chavi misas based in he. That's the actual death penalty. So my taima ksiv hara di my taima ksiv hara di da gabi chavi krisus. Lichtav gabi misas based in. Doesn't it make more sense? It should have been written by something which is comparable to the death penalty, not kares, but rather something which is Mises based in. Vanil Mises based in, Mises based in. So I did a kuli kro with drasha, see, because since this whole pasuk is a drasha, ksiv beinami ha milsal drasha. This is actually a drasha. So even though you're right, it would make more sense that this Indian would be about a topic which is actually a Mises based in, but nonetheless, it's we can still make this drasha. So my drasha, the Sanya. What is this drasha, this whole pasuk? So the pasuk is Erebas Achos Avicha. So we're going to focus on those words, on your father's sister, Lusigali, Bein Mina Av, Bein Mina Aim, whether it's from your father or mother's side. Maybe only from your father's side or your mother's side. V'dinhu. Chiv kan v'chiv b'chaiso. There's a chiv here and also by your sister. So when it comes to your sister, bein mina av, bein mina aim, it doesn't make a difference if it's your father's side or your mother's side, like your half sister on your father or your mother's side. She's still aser. Av kan bein mina av, bein mina aim. So it wouldn't make any difference. When it comes to your father's sister or your mother's sister, or the other way around. Chiv kan v'chiv l'dodaso. There's also a chiv when it comes to your aunt. Ma dodaso. When it comes to your aunt, mina avul mina aim, the isser is taking an aunt from your father's side, not from your mother's side. Sav kan mina avul mina aim. So near me daima. Which one's more comparable? Done in isser haba me'elav, be'isser haba me'elav. When both of these things are things that are just not from, just happen from birth. Your aunt, it doesn't. It's not from birth. It's from marriage. From the relative. Done in kravi av v'karvi av. You should, the relatives of your father, relatives of your father. That's your sister's, your relative. So Talmud Lemer, Erbas Achois Avicha Lusigali, Bein Mina Av, Bein Mina Aim. Erbas Achoischa Imcha Lusigali, Bein Mina Av, Bein Mina Aim. So Lamuli. So why do we need Lamuli? Lemichtava Ba'achos Av, Lamuli Michtava Ba'achos Aim. Why is that to be mentioned by both? So Omer Rabbi Avos Richa Kasrach Mana Ba'achos Av. It was mentioned regarding your father's sister, which is Aser Shekain Yesh Chayis, because there is this element, as Rashi says, the mishpachas av kuri mishpacha, because you go after the father. Avol achos aim, by the mother, aimalo, because there's no chayas. We don't go, when it comes to yichus, after the mother, rather than the father. Now, v'ikas rachmana ba'achos aim, shekin vadoyis. You know for sure she's your relative, because you know who the mother is, because she's the one that gave birth. Avol achos av aimalo tzricha. But over here, maybe it's from a different father. The dodaso de pshita le'latana, the dodaso, the aunt, in which it was a davar pashat latana de min ha'av v'lo min ha'aim menoli. How do we know that there's an isser only of taking your aunt from your father's side, not from your mother's side? So merava asya dodo dodos exer shava. Ksiv hacha ervas daido gil. Ksiv hasam o dodo o ben daidai yigolenu. Maluholan min ha'av v'lo min ha'aim avkan min ha'av v'lo min ha'aim. So we went out that it's dafka the father's side, not the mother. Fine. V'hasam enolan. So Omer Kra mimishpachta yigalenu. Mimishpachas av kar mishpacha. Mishpachas enu kar mishpacha. We said it's considered to mishpacha goes back to the father's side, not the mother's side. We're going to stop here. Let's see a couple of questions. Question 10. Ezu erva. What is an erva? That's usher only bekurva min ha'av, v'lo min ha'aim. So he says, dodasoi eshes achi ha'av, your aunt, which is your father's brother's wife. Your father's brother's wife. That is your aunt. It's your father's brother's wife. Shim haya dodo achi aviv min ha'aim. Let's say it's from your father's side. It's rather min ha'aim from the mother's side in ishtol of ereva. His wife is not considered to be an ereva to you. So dodasai is only min ha'av v'lo min ha'aim. That was question 10. Okay, let's see a couple more questions. TA 8. Lamli the Kosiv Shechva Zera Be'eshes Ish. Okay, we didn't do that. So there's nothing on that. TB 10. Ez Erev Min Harayos Shibatayra Eino Surah Min Atayra El Derech Mishpachas Av Vo Mishpachas Aim. Sounds like the same answer. Eshes Achi Aviv. Your father's brother's wife, your aunt. Adkan.